In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is asked the question, "Which is the greatest commandment?" He answered, "Love God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." And then again, at the Last Supper, he says the same thing, but with a twist. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples." This time, Jesus replaced your neighbor with one another. This new love that Christ commands of us goes much deeper than the Old Testament commandment he was quoting in Matthew. The people we have been commanded to love has expanded beyond our neighborhoods to include, well, everyone. And this includes people who might make this commandment a bit difficult, like that confrontational coworker who just seems impossible to get along with, or your in-laws who've never treated you like a part of the family, or maybe the person you just met, who you don't even know and really need some help. You see, Jesus knew his physical time on earth was nearing an end. So in this new take on the old commandment, Jesus also made another change. The words "as yourself" became "as I have loved you." Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Christ's sacrificial life provides a clear and concrete example of real and true love. And he put this love on display on a daily basis with his disciples. He was patient with them, speaking kindly and showing great concern for their welfare. He instructed, counseled, and comforted them, prayed with them and for them. He admonished them for wrongdoing, and yet compassionately bore with their failings. And most of all, he gave his life, dying so that they and we might live. According to Jesus, this is how others will know that you are one of his followers, not because you have a shirt or a bumper sticker that says so, not because we announce it from a stage or a blog or a status update, but because they look at you, at how you live, the things you do and say, and they see Jesus. They see love.
That's an amazing video, and that actually covers the whole point of my message this afternoon. But when talking about commandments, it is really something so negative for some people. Talking about commandments is a challenging topic to discuss because people will usually step back, and we receive pushback from people, and people will react because, of course, this topic talks about and directly confronts us of how we live as Christians, and it's so complex. But you know what? The good news is Christianity is not really complicated. Jesus actually made Christianity simple and clear. Now, I'm not saying it's simple and easy to live, because Christianity is not easy to live. It is not even difficult. It is impossible, because we need the supernatural power of the Holy Spirit to live a victorious Christian life. What I mean as simple is the message and the instruction of Jesus is pretty straightforward, and that is what I mean simple. Let me illustrate this way. I would like to call my two sons to come over here on stage. Nico, come. Oh, bring Nico. It's his birthday today. What will you say? They said, happy birthday, Nico. What did you say? Oh, what did you say? Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, that's not my illustration. Okay, I just want to bring my two sons because I want to illustrate this way. At our house, there's only one rule: to make everything simple. And what is that one rule?
Honor one another.
honor one another. And from that rule, we do our roles. As parents, our role is to love our kids. That means to protect them from harm and to provide for them. That means to care for them. We would train them and teach them the ways of the Lord. And that also means that we need to disciple them, to model Christ-like attitude to them, to model and to mentor them to grow like Christ. Children also have roles. How are you going to honor your parents? By
being respectful, by being obedient, and by being honest.
By being respectful, by being obedient, and by being honest. And the rest will just follow. The rest are dozens of application. Being respectful means you will be careful with your words. You will be careful and choose your words wisely. Respectful means you shake hands with me and people, right? And respectful means, obedient means you do your homework, household chores. Every after meal, he does the vacuuming the floor. Every waking up in the morning, you make the bed, right? Good. And then every taking care of Nico. And then what else? Be obedient, be respectful, and what the other one? What is the other one? Be honest, right? Then there's no secret at home, right? You will tell to mommy and daddy what's in your heart, what's in your mind, right? Good job. And that's my illustration, and I'll explain it later. Good job, son. Now you can go to your celebration, birthday celebration. And are you ready? Where's, I don't know. Okay, kiss daddy. Okay, okay, go. Bring this one, son. Give it to mommy. Yeah, they have McDonald's birthday party there. So if you kids, you want to go there, there's a McDonald's birthday party. They prepared more than 30 happy meals for the kids. I said kids, okay? Don't go. Sit down, okay? Kids lang, kids. Okay? The point is, if we focus on the basic, one rule, the rest will follow. Are we communicating? If we focus on the basic, the rest will follow. If we focus on what really matters, things get less complicated. Instructions become clearer and it's easier to follow. Can you imagine if I tell my kids, okay, you do this, you wash the dishes, you clean the room, you mop the floor and all. There's a lot of things already. But if he knows there's one rule at home, and in this rule, you'll do your roles, we will do our roles. As parents, we will do our roles. Then he can, oh, Dad, you are not loving me. You are not taking care of me. You don't take care of me. And you are not there for me. Then I would know, oops, I'm not doing the roles. If you make the major, less pressure, less stress, and less tension in the relationship. Right? But disclaimer, I'm not showing my family because we are perfect. Okay? We are way far from perfection. I'm not perfect parent. I am way far from being a perfect parent. My kids are not perfect kids. They're way far. They're just 3 years old and 7 turning 8 years old. But what my point is we want the rule. What I'm trying to illustrate with you is how to simplify commandments, how to simplify the rule at home. Making the instructions clear will make life easy. People will not be confused, and they will have a right understanding on what to do. Oh, I have to be respectful, I have to be obedient, and I have to be honest. And then the rest are just dozens of application. And Jesus did the same thing in the Bible. There are 613 commandments in the Old Testament that all the Jews doing during the time of Jesus. It was shortened to 10 commandments in the Torah by Moses, but it is also shortened by Jesus when he asked, hey, Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, there's love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, love yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he again said, there's one. He simplified, he trimmed it down to make it simple for people to understand and know how to live life easier. This is the background. When Jesus enters Jerusalem, that is a Palm Sunday. Okay, remember that? Palm Sunday, Jesus went to Jerusalem. Many people came and welcomed him. Thousands of people said, "Hey, Hosanna to the Son of David. Hallelujah. He is here with us." And they're celebrating, and Jesus came there. And then Jesus entered the temple. You know what happened in the temple, right? In the temple, he saw people selling stuff. And he was so mad, and he drove out all the buyers and the sellers and the market dwellers, and he overturned tables of the money changers and the traders. And he said that my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of thieves or robbers. And he was so mad during the time, and then he saw, of course, some people probably went to the Pharisee and the Sadducee. So there's one guy there. He just came to Jerusalem, and then he overturned all the tables, and he was so mad. And he said that his house, the temple, and the Pharisees and Sadducees, who is this guy? Oh, his name is Jesus. He's from Nazareth. Then by this, Jesus went out to the temple, and he continued teaching in a form of parables. And he continued teaching them about life, about the good news of the gospel. And the Pharisees and Sadducees became so furious, and they planned to arrest Jesus. Oh, this is the guy who performed miracles, and he has a lot of followers during the time, and they're so furious. Sadducees are the upper class in the Israel that time. The Pharisees are the more of the economic classes during that time. But they are expert in the law. They study the law of Moses, the 10 Commandments where they are obeying. And in the Sadducees, they are more of like a part and made up of a Jewish aristocracy. These are people of a highest class who in that certain society, and they are privileged ruling classes. They're part of the Supreme Court of the Israel during that time. And this is what they said. They looked for a way to arrest him. Who do you think he is? Oh, this guy make chaos and disorder in the city. But they were afraid of the crowd because the people regarded Jesus as a prophet. They're so mad at Jesus, but they can't arrest him right away because there are many people following him and regarding him as a man from God. They cannot arrest him. So they're planning. They were contemplating. They were probably strategizing. How are we going to arrest this guy? How are we going to make our case airtight so that we can persecute this guy? Of course, the blasphemy part is one. It's already there in their mind because Jesus claimed to be God. And when he said that when he forgave the sin of the paralytic man, the Pharisees were like, "Oh, what are you doing? There's only God can forgive sin." And then when he said that he made himself equal to God, he claimed to be God. And then when he said that he before Abraham, I am, then they stoned him to death, right? And then when he said, I and the Father are one, it's already there. They were thinking of how to arrest this man in the area of blasphemy. But that's not enough. They want to make a case for Jesus violating the Roman law. So what they did, they looked for ways how to arrest him, to violate the religious law and the Roman law. What they did was they wanted to catch Jesus with his words. From his words, by asking him series of questions. If people think that he is really a man from God, a prophet, then we have to debunk it. We have to destroy that impression. Let's catch Jesus in his own words. Then let's jump to chapter 22. Then the Pharisees, they met together. Okay, let's do this. We're going to do this. Let's meet together to plot this and how to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. So they were thinking what ways and what questions to ask. And then they said, you know what? They sent some of their disciples. They spread out. Okay, you, my follower, go there. Jesus, go there. Then we'll go to Jesus' gathering. We'll go to his speaking engagement. And then one of you will have a list of questions, okay? And then let's just try to ask him, and then let's try to catch him. And then if he says something, then let's go to the Roman and arrest him, okay? That's what we're going to do. So what they sent disciples along with the supporters of Herod, and then to meet him. And then one said, teacher, Jesus, and Jesus was speaking, right? In the synagogue, people are sitting there, probably there's no seat, or in the public place, outside the temple, and then he was teaching, and then he said, hey, teacher, Jesus, excuse me, question. Okay, what's your question? We know that you know how honest you are. You know how sound it is, right? You teach the way of God truthfully. And this is a follower of the Pharisees. You are impartial and you don't play favoritism, right, Jesus? Jesus was probably, I know where this is going. I know what he's trying. I know you're trying to set me up. And the first question, Jesus, is this. Now, tell us what you think about this. It is right to pay taxes to Caesars or not? And of course, Jesus sensed their intention. And Jesus, why are you testing me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you asking this question? Isn't that plain and simple? Just show me a coin. And he said, who's facing the coin? Is it for Caesar? And then Jesus answered, hey, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. And then the people said, that's the right answer. They thought that Jesus would create a revolution that, hey, you don't pay to Caesar, then he will get arrested. But Jesus was so smart, and that's the right reason. Give to Caesar what's for Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. Attempt failed. We can't arrest Jesus. So his reply amazed them, and they went away. Wow, he answered it correctly. So they went away. The disciples of the Pharisees, they thought it was easy to arrest Jesus. Then they regrouped. After they regrouped, that same day, the Sadducees, remember these are the high-class men in the society. They are businessmen, they are political, they're most influential, powerful in Israel during that time. But that same day, the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him with a question. Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection. Sadducees don't believe in life after death. That's why they are Sadducees, right? Thank you for laughing. Yeah, that's my joke. That's a joke, okay? Now, and then they went to Jesus, and then they have a question. Question is, okay, Jesus, but they don't believe this is a lawyer, right? They don't believe in a life after death. He said, Jesus, Moses told us that if a man dies without having a children, his brother must marry the widow. Okay, Jesus was like, okay. And then to raise the offspring, right? But what if there's no child? So the man should give it to his brother, the second one. But the second brother died. Then the man made a way to the third man. And the third man died, fourth man, fifth, sixth, and then finally the seventh died. And then the woman died. So Jesus, this is the question. Now then, at the resurrection, Jesus, whose life will he be of the seven? Whose wife will she be of the seven? Since all of them were married to her. Whoa, the crowd was like, ooh, that's a good question, right? I think they got Jesus this time. And then people was like, probably the man was sitting there, and then the crowd looked at the man. Okay, Jesus, this is the case. Moses told us 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 died. Then the woman died. What's your answer? And then the people look at Jesus, right? People are like, whoa, let's see what Jesus will say. This is hot topic now. Okay, that's a great question. And then Jesus said, he's so smart. He's so amazing. And this is his response. You are in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God. Hello, Sadducees. You are not expert of the law of Moses. You are in error because you are hypocrites. And then he said, at the resurrection, and then another reason you are in error because you don't believe in the resurrection, and then you're asking me about the resurrection. How dare you to ask me about that when you don't believe in that? And then he said, at the resurrection, people will neither marry nor beget, even in marriage, they will be like an angels in heaven. And but about the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what God said to you? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. Ooh, the crowd was like, wow. This guy is amazing. His response is beyond the knowledge, the wisdom, and the what these Pharisees and Sadducees. And there was silence. And then the next verse. Then when the crowd heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. The Pharisees failed. They said, Jesus, taxes, all right, failed. The Sadducees failed. Jesus, whose wife is this after death? And they thought it's easy, but now it's so hard to catch Jesus. Then we'll go to our text. I only have 2 minutes left. That's just the background. We'll go to the text, okay? Forgive me. I'll extend for another 2 hours, okay? No, just kidding. Another probably 10 minutes. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus, had silenced the Sadducees, wow, probably, what? The Sadducees did not reply, didn't even have the chance to counter-argument, to rebut. Yeah. And then they met together to question him again. Okay, let's give this a try. Okay? The first attempt didn't work. The second attempt didn't work. Let's give it a try. Then they use a lawyer, a man who is expert in the law. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Teacher, excuse me. Yeah. So after Jesus was talking, answering questions, okay, speak. Which is the greatest commandment in the law? Ding, 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 ding. Let's see how Jesus will respond. Then Jesus respond. Oh, that's simple. You're a Pharisee. You're an expert in the law, right? Okay. Love the Lord your God. This is the Shema confession of the Jews. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. This is the first and the greatest commandment of all. And then everyone was like, okay, I think, yeah, we know that because this is a standard response. Every Israelites during the time understand this. This is the Shema confession of the Jews. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Deuteronomy 6:4. They memorize that in Hebrew. They recite that every day. Love the Lord your God with all your might, soul, and strength. And then, there's more. And Jesus said, this is the first, the greatest, and the second is like it. The second is the same important like the first. And he said, love your neighbor as yourselves. I was like, what? Okay. Love the Lord your God and then love the neighbor as yourself. Jesus was saying, these two goes together. They are both equally important. You cannot do the other one without the other one. You cannot do the other one without the other one. The first is nothing without the second, and the second is nothing without the first. You cannot claim that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and hate your brother. And in 1 John 4:20 says, if someone says they love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and then hate his brother, he is lying. It's not true. And the second, loving others without loving God, is also not true. It's impossible. Well, you can try. You can try to do that, but it's going to be superficial because you don't have standard of love. You can do it, but it's going to be conditional because it's based on what you get from that love. And eventually you will be burned out. To illustrate this, in a car, right, I'm not a mechanic. David is a mechanic. And then, where's David? He did my car early this week. When you drive a car, all the tires must be even, equal. right? Trying to live life focusing on more of the top commandment and the first and the second, first rather than the second, is like driving a car with unbalanced tire, right? You can drive the car. There, you might feel there's some shimmy and a little bit not balanced when you speed up at the highway, but you can easily ignore it, right? It's okay. I will love God, but I hate my wife. I will love God and hate my neighbor. Or I love my neighbor, but I don't love God. I'll not do my best to love God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then what will happen? If you ignore that we're driving, the tire will wear off wrongly, right? Uneven, right? And the longer you ignore it, the more damage it will cause. The brake pads will be broken, or you can hardly move the steering wheel, and then you'll get frustrated, and then you get stranded before you know it. That's the same in this commandment. They must go together. Otherwise, it will damage you. It will damage relationship. The two stand together. You cannot separate them. And then Jesus said, the law and the prophets hang on to these two commandments. Meaning, the Old Testament, from Genesis to Malachi, the law, the Torah, and the prophets, minor and major prophets, hang on to these two commandments. This is the summary of your Bible. He responded to the Pharisee. Their Bible during the time called the law and the prophets. Though it's not canonized yet, but that's basically the belief of Judaizers or Judaism during the time. So that's what Jesus is saying. What you're teaching and what you're believing sums up in these two simplified commandments. Jesus made it simple. Our love for God, our love of God, is meant to overflow into our love for others. Our love of God was meant to overflow into our love of others. And this includes the people who don't like you and may not like you. Who don't like you in terms of not the same interests, not the same work, not the same view of life, not the same level of thinking, not the same status in life, not the same in anything. Or the people who don't like you, including the people that are difficult to handle. Right? You don't look at them, okay? Just look at me. The people that are difficult to handle. These people are so entitled. They're so unappreciative. They're cranky and they're so rude. The people that are demanding, have entitlement mentality. They're so pushy. They felt that they're always right, and you cannot give a suggestion. Or disappointing people, unfaithful, disloyal, or disruptive people. Right? These people, Jesus said, if you love God, love these people. Yesterday, we went to Jasper, and we're so excited. Woke up so early, 4 a.m., and then we drove there 3.5 hours. And when we get there, in the parking lot, we saw someone. It's like, why is here? I don't know this guy, but why they're here? And then they're setting up, and then, oh no, this ruined my day. Right? So I tried to ignore it. We parked, we unload our stuff, and then I said, I think we have to find some other way, other location. And then, okay, let me go and find. I tried to, I pretended I didn't see him, but when I saw him, I was like, hey, boss, sir, I'm about to leave. And then the guy who gossiped me, who maliciously spread lies about me, he said like, hey, suplado mo ah. I was like, I don't know if it's a joke, but you have some feeling of negative emotions already, and then, suplado mo, I was trying to avoid him. Exactly. He's standing there, and then I'm trying to, I was biking, and then he shouted, suplado mo. What's the English of that? You're so snobbish. It seems that you're handsome. Well, I am, but just kidding. So I was trying to make my way. It's morning, so I went back, and then, and then I reached his hand. Hey, I thought you don't know me, and you don't know me, and now, says, I thought you forgot me already. And I squeezed his shoulder. It's like, you know what? Good thing I'll be preaching tomorrow about love, or else, but I remember, love of God is meant to overflow to these people. It's difficult to love. And then we enjoyed the creation of God, and I didn't think about it, and then we went home. I was on the way home, I was like, wow, God. And then we're talking on the way home, my wife said, it's so amazing. God's creation is so amazing. He made us forget about the stress. And we just enjoy, and then that's it. When you love God, less stress, less complications, less tensions in the relationship. Let's go back to the story. 3 to 4 days after Jesus had encounter with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and then he gathered his disciples for supper. Okay? In that supper, Jesus washed his stinky, messy, dirty, smelly feet of his disciples. And on the supper, after they're done, he said, you know what? One of you, I just washed all your feet. One of you will betray me in the next few hours. One of you will hand me over to the Roman. And that will lead to my persecution. And that will lead to my torture and death. And in that process of arrest, one of you will deny me. And all of you, I just wash each of your foot. All of you will disown me as if you don't know me. But I want to give you a new command. I want to give you something before I leave this world. And he said, a new commandment I give you. He's talking to his disciples. And he said, love one another. I was probably, that's not new, God, Jesus. Peter said, I think you already had that conversation with the Pharisees and the Sadducees about a couple of days ago, I think. And that's not really new. And then, no, wait, there's more. As I have loved you, as I wash your feet, even though one of you will betray me, as I wash your feet, even one of you will deny me, and all of you will disown me, and all of you love one another as I have loved you. And he's talking to Judas, and he was talking to Peter, he was talking to Thomas, who doubted him. He was talking to all these people who don't want to be or have to do with him. This simplifies the whole Bible. In the Old Testament, there are 10 commandments. Thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, blah, 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 blah. And then Jesus simplified it. People complicate it. But Jesus said, let's make this thing simple. This summarizes the whole Bible. If you're stressed in a situation or if people is challenging you, some people during the time of Jesus would say, what the law requires. And in the modern church today, they would say, what the Bible requires. But if you're a follower of Jesus, if you are tested, what does love requires? What does Jesus requires from us? To love others as He loved us. He made it plain and simple. What do I mean? Quickly, 5 minutes. Loving like Jesus means loving others sincerely. And Paul clearly said this, be kind to one another. Be kind even to the people who you don't like. These people who are not like you and don't like you, because Jesus is also kind to you. And then he said, be compassionate to one another. We already talked about this in the acronym of love, right? Listen actively. Listen to know the whole story about the person. You offer help and guidance. That is compassionate. And then you value the person, and then you encourage them to know Jesus and walk with Jesus. And then Jesus also said, forgive one another just as Christ has forgiven you. What do you mean by forgive, Jeff? He did something to me that's unthinkable, and I can't forgive him. You resist revenge. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. But my husband cheated on me. That's why I will get even. I'll have to cheat. No. That's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, forgive as I have forgiven you. Do not pay evil for evil. Rather, you wish them well. You pray for them. It's so hard. You care for them. You celebrate on their victories, with their victories. You seek reconciliation if you have a chance. That's forgiving others. While we were Jesus, remember the Romans 5:8? While we are his enemies, Jesus took the initiative to die for us. That is forgiveness. You grieve for their calamities and their problems and challenges. When you hear that your enemy is experiencing hardship, you're like, oh, buti nga. No, that's not forgiveness. Good for them. No, that's not forgiveness. When people are suffering, even how bad they did against you or what they did against you, you pray for them. You care for them. And then you come to their distress when you need it. This is what loving like Jesus means. And it's also sacrificially. Paul also said, imitate God. Therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children, live a life filled with love. What do you mean by that? By following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered himself as sacrifice for us. A pleasing aroma of worship. Count everything as nothing compared to knowing Jesus. That is sacrificial love. One of the things that I would do is, Lord, if there's anything that come in my way of loving you, remove it. I want to sacrifice it. If that's something, my comfort zone, my work, my resources, my house, my car, or my lifestyle and all, take it away. My relationship. If my wife gets in the middle of our relationship, take her away. I was like thinking, wow. If my son, it's like, wow, Lord, is that really my prayer? But that's sacrificial. My pride, my life, my physical life. If I will fall out of loving you, take me away. That's so bold. But sacrificial love means you sacrifice to spend time. You sacrifice your time to spend time with people. Sacrificial love is you sacrifice your work so that you can spend time with your family. Sacrifice your careers because your career is making a toll on you and damaging you, or you are compromising your relationship. That's why you have to let go of that thing. Sacrificial means you will give something without expecting anything in return. Sacrificial means you will let go of your bad habits because it's damaging your relationship and your life personally. That's sacrificial love. The last one is this. Loving Jesus means loving others sincerely, sacrificially, and selflessly. And Paul stated clearly that in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus. What do you mean by that? Have the same mindset like Jesus. Jesus being in a very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. He's God. He never ceased to be God. He is God from the beginning of time to the end of time and to over time and all other time. But he is God. And this example of Jesus, who selflessly did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, can be practiced in our relationship. Husbands, love your wives selflessly by leading them, loving them unconditionally, and being there for them. Wives, support your husband and respect your husband. Paul stated that in Ephesians 5:21. Parents, disciple your kids. Kids, honor your parents. And that is how you're going to love one another. As Christ have loved us. What have we learned? Read this with me. We're done. Read this with me. 1, 2, 3. Our love of God is meant to overflow in our loving others like Jesus means loving them. Okay? Is it right, Chin? Love for God, right? Or love of God? But this is my question for you. And then good. We still have 15 minutes, okay? I want you to group yourselves with your life group. If those of you are here for the first time or second time, you can join with the people who invited you. Or if you don't, no one invited you, we will stay with you, okay? This will be my questions for you, and I want you to discuss this in the next 15 minutes. The group of Kuya Ruel, you can divide that into two. The group of the South, Kuya Boy, you can divide it into two so that more people can talk and can engage, okay? Now, this is what we learned. This is what I want to ask. What does loving God and loving people mean to you personally? Okay? Before we talk about all of this, what does it mean to you? Then why are these two meant to work together? Why one cannot exist without the other, and the other cannot exist without the other? Why they have to be together? And then the third one is, what do you think is the most challenging part of loving people, and what is the best way to overcome those challenges? Okay? It's so hard to love people. I'm with you. It's so hard. There are many challenges. But you know what? What is the best thing or best way to overcome those challenges?